You're listening to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, episode 211. Vegan nun and powerlifter Pat Farrell joins me to discuss her training, her first powerlifting meet, and the meet she's training for now, and she's going to be 73 years old when she competes. Also joining us is Pat's coach, Katya Gorbacheva, the third strongest vegan woman on the planet.
Welcome to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast. Myth-busting and evidence-based advice to help you kick butt with your health and fitness on a vegan diet. Here's your host, Karina Inkster.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Karina, your go-to no BS vegan fitness and nutrition coach. Thanks for tuning in today. I want to share two quick messages my coaching team and I received recently from clients. And I'll use their first initials instead of full names because they're pretty personal messages. First of all, G says, "Hey, you two," which by the way is me and my colleague, Coach Zoe. "Just want to say thank you again. I'm trucking through my bumps because of this awesome system of accountability and structure that you've created. It is helping me be a better me." And then S messaged us as part of a longer message. "I wanted to add, since I'm about to heat up some pizza for my breakfast, my relationship with food has changed drastically since I've been training with you. I haven't labeled choices as good or bad, and I don't guilt myself if I make choices like pizza for breakfast. Now, could I be making more nutritious choices? Yes, indeed. But like what you were saying in your message, each day looks different, and having guilt over food is a miserable way to live." Super powerful message from this client. You know, food is not a moral test. I'm just putting this out there. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know we're very anti-diet culture. While we're on the subject, fitness is not a punishment. So food isn't good or bad. Guilt is not a nutrition strategy. And your worth as a human has nothing to do with what is or isn't on your plate. Now, what I like about both of these messages is that they're about identity level change. So these clients aren't just blindly following a program and going through the motions. They're thinking about why they do what they do, and they're also learning to be kind to themselves during this process. They're navigating health in real world, imperfect, sometimes chaotic conditions, and they're doing this without shame or rigidity. Really super strict programs, rigid rules, unrealistic expectations, those are not part of our coaching vocabulary, and the progress that these clients have achieved reflects that. If you want sustainable, shame-free coaching in your corner, Coach Zoe and I are currently accepting new clients. Head to karinainkster.com/coaching to learn more. That's karinainkster.com/coaching. Today, I'm lucky enough to have two guests on the show. Pat joins me first, and then Katya joins in a bit later. Pat Farrell is a Dominican sister of San Rafael. She has been in leadership, both of her congregation of sisters, as well as of the national organization, Dominican Sisters Conference. She's served as a teacher, elementary school principal, and retreat leader. Presently, she manages an affordable housing apartment that is sponsored by her congregation. Though she had familiarity with strength training, she became serious about her training and began working toward a powerlifting competition. She competed in push-pull at her first competition in July 2025. She's registered for her second competition in January 2026 and hopes that her depth of squat will allow her to compete in all three events: squat, bench press, and deadlift. Katya Gorbacheva, aka the vegan powerlifter, is the third strongest vegan woman on the planet. Katya's passion is to educate that plants have all the protein you need to get strong and to popularize strength sports among men and women of all ages. She wrote the Vegan Powerlifting Starter Guide to help women obtain confidence through strength training instead of endless diets. Katya's coaching company, veganpowerlifter.com, is a supportive community of plant-based athletes succeeding in competitive sports and personal wellness goals, be it losing 20 pounds or getting stronger to live longer. She's been featured on Great Vegan Athletes, Plant-Based News, Vegan Linked, Duke Alumni Network, the Vegan Strong Plant Built Team, and more. And Katya also, by the way, was on episode 176 of this podcast. So make sure you check that out if you haven't tuned in yet. Here's my conversation with Pat and Katya. Hey, Pat, great to see you. Thanks for speaking with me today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is really going to be fun.
It is. I have seen you everywhere. You have been all over the vegan news and the mainstream news. It's just amazing. So you need to tell our viewers what's been going on in Pat's world lately that makes you this sought after vegan icon now.
Well, I know I'm not the heaviest lifter of all, and I know I'm not the heaviest lifter of even women my age, if I look at stats, but I'm doing a darn good job. Be that as it may, I started working with a coach, Katya Gorbacheva, back in end of February, beginning of March. I'd like to go toward a competition. Mm-hmm. I started with weights and stuff. I've got a bench. I've got stuff here at home. I started with what I had at home. And before long, I was lifting more than I had at home. So I went to a commercial gym, which has lots of problems.
We could get into those.
Anyway, I went to a small, kind of a boutique gym, but they really specialize in weight training and strength training. Mm-hmm. And they're not a powerlifting gym, but they've got the barbells, they've got all the setups, and they're supportive, and they will spot. Mm-hmm. So I signed up with them, and not long after I was there, they saw me as somebody who is, if one thing, I'm consistent. I go regularly. I go, Katya gives me my workout, and I go do it. So, mm-hmm. And so at some point, the owner and their publicity guy said, "Could we do a blog post on you?" And I said, "Well, sure, that would be fun." And I'm going to say that was probably in June.
Okay.
It was in June. Or no, it was in July, because they got a photographer, brought her to the gym. I remember this because I had a friend here from out of town that I was going to go on vacation with, and she went with me to the gym. So
that was only 3 months ago, though. That's crazy.
July, yeah. So they brought in this photographer, and they put out a blog. And the next thing I know, they're contacting me about a local TV station, K-Ron, had contacted them, wanted to know if they could do a spot on the gym and on me. And so I gave them permission. And the next thing I know is ABC, which is one of the larger networks, but still it was the local ABC, also wanted to come and do an interview. I really have to say that ABC's interview was much better. I really liked the gal, Liz Pena, and she asked good questions. She more understood things, I think, than the other station. But because it was ABC, it got picked up on the national news. It ended up on David Muir on Sunday evening. And then I was told that I would hear from Tamron Hall, who is a talk show host, a daytime talk show host. And then I didn't hear for a while, and I thought, it's fine. Meanwhile, I'm getting other kinds of, there was a vegan news, there was a Forks Over Knives contacted me, a Catholic newspaper contacted me, and so I was doing interview after interview. And finally, Tamron Hall contacted me, and they flew me to New York, along with the owner of the gym to
amazing.
Spot for me.
So cool.
So, yeah. So the gym has gotten a lot of publicity, I think.
Yeah, you could be their new marketing person. I just did a quick search, just putting in your name just to see where you've popped up. It's plant-based news, which is a huge outlet in the vegan world. ABC, of course. All the headlines are the powerlifting nun, 72-year-old nun who recently took up weightlifting. Powerlifting nun says lifting heavy taught her a big lesson. They're age related and they're badass related.
Well,
and vegan, especially in the vegan specific outlets.
It's been kind of fun. I've got to say, there is a unique twist. I think there's a lot of interest these days in people who are my age and older, and even a little bit younger, that are trying to find health through strength training, trying to avoid sarcopenia and trying to increase their bone health and all these other kinds of things. And so there's an interest in that. And then along comes somebody who's a nun, and it becomes a very unique story.
Well, and the vegan aspect
vegan.
too. Yeah. So tell me about the vegan piece. So what's Pat's vegan story? How long has it been? How did you come to it? What's the deal there?
I don't have a point in the sand like a lot of people do. But
fair.
And of course, it's sand. So, but I would say I've been vegan for 12 years. And I would also say that I'm not perfect. So there's little slips here and there, but I don't think that disqualifies me.
Correct. Yes.
Although I know there are the vegan police out there that want to control it all.
The vegan police are doing the whole vegan movement a disservice, honestly. Let me just say it.
Yeah. So they turn off a lot of people. And I think that if we're concerned about the planet and if we're concerned about the welfare of animals, every step we make toward it is a good step.
Agreed.
And so if we have a little slippage sometime when the food is there, like I was at a conference last week and, well, there was some dessert that I just couldn't resist. And it was there on the table, on a plate, So I succumbed,
Yeah, I hear you. The vegan police and the all or nothing approach it's really not doing anything positive for the vegan movement as a whole, but also the things we're trying to affect: animal welfare, planetary resilience, all of those things. So yeah, well, I won't hold it against you.
yeah, that's good. And actually, before I became a sister, now I've been a sister for 32 years. Before I became a sister, a couple of years before that, and so we're going back in time when vegan wasn't much of a thing. I actually had read Diet for a New America and maybe something else as well. And I moved toward being vegan at that point. And then when I decided to become a sister, that got really complicated because you live in community with people and in those days, there was not much accommodation for diet differences. And had I had even an allergy, they would have raised an eyebrow. So, so
is that different now? It must be different now.
Oh, no, it's not a problem now, but it would have been then when you're coming in new.
Got it. Okay.
So I just kind of I made choices because there's also this thing among the diehard vegans that anybody who is still eating animals, it's like they're evil. And that's another disservice because were good women with good morals, good ethics, and are working in social justice and trying to make people's lives better. So to say that because they eat hamburgers or chicken to say that they're evil people, it just doesn't wash. So anyway. And then after some time, we took a stance on nonviolence. And so that was when I put my stake in the ground and said, I'm going to be vegetarian because that was the easier choice at that point. And everybody was fine with that. And then I gained weight because cheese.
Because cheese.
Because cheese.
Yes. That's a complete statement. I get it.
Yeah. So I think everybody gets that. So anyway, it took a while, but so I'd say for 12 years, I've been back on a vegan path. And it's still, even then, weight can go up and down because there's vegan junk food and there's other kinds of things that you can eat. But for the last 3 years or so, my weight has been pretty stable because I've been more adherent to healthy food. And since we met even, when I worked with you and Zoe, I started to be more attentive to protein.
I wanted to ask you about that actually. And I also want to get into your powerlifting, experience with meats and all that. But on the nutrition front, before we started recording, you mentioned Forks Over Knives. You also included it in a list of organizations that have featured you. And I was thinking, that organization comes up a lot because it's very well known. People in the vegan world are all familiar with Forks Over Knives and the recipes and the resources. But the one thing that I hear a lot from them specifically, or from people who have looked into their resources, is they're not really protein centric. They're not necessarily catering to an audience that lifts heavy shit, right?
Yeah.
Because we all, whether we're vegan or not, if we strength train, our protein needs are different than folks who are sedentary or folks who do endurance. So where are you on the whole protein discussion? Do people ask you about it a lot? Do people say, hey, well, you're a powerlifter and you're vegan. How the heck does that work? Is it a big deal?
People do. I mean, they do at the gym, and then once I tell them, they're, oh, good. I'll tell them that I weigh 145 to 147 pounds. That's my range usually. And I aim in protein for between 130 and 140.
Seems reasonable.
I don't have any trouble getting that if I eat tofu, if I include protein powder. I make seitan dishes that are very ample in protein. I think what I found helpful about paying more attention to protein in the first place, even before lifting, is that I think my weight started to stabilize more with that, and there's more satiety the more protein there is. But since I have started lifting heavy, I have to be a little more intentional. To get 100 grams of protein, 90 to 100 grams of protein is not so hard. You still have to make protein a center, which Forks Over Knives doesn't suggest, which I think is important for people my age to get more protein.
Yes, absolutely. For absorption, for bone health. Absolutely.
But in lifting, I really do have to be intentional.
So how many calories a day are you working with?
About 2,000.
Right. Because that makes a big difference, right? If you were someone who had 1,500 calories and you still had to hit 140 grams of protein, that would be an entirely different scenario.
Right.
That's still pretty high, but we're not at the point where you have to forego grains or veggies or fruits in order to hit your protein goal, right? Sometimes I see these macros that people have where it's just so insanely and unnecessarily high in protein. They're not even eating fruit because it's, quote, too high in carbs.
Well, and I don't pay any attention to the carbs or the fat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm a power lifter. So I just pay attention to protein and calories, and it would drive me nuts if I had to follow all of my macros.
No kidding. I'm with you on that.
So sometimes fats are a little up and sometimes carbs are a little up, but I don't really pay much attention to that.
It's not going to make a big difference anyway.
I find some of the conversations around diet and that you'll get all the protein that you'll need if you just have enough calories in that vegan diet conversation, not as accurate as I think it is. But mind you, I'm not a dietitian. But I think that if I were to use the RDA, all I'd need to get would be around 50 grams of protein.
Well, the RDA also has some issues, which is a whole other discussion, of course. But I mean, we're talking mostly just covering the most basic of bases for sedentary people. It doesn't take into account people who lift, people who are active.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the same for me. I'm not quite as high. I think it's around 110, 120 grams of protein per day.
Well, you're lighter weight
about
in the
2,000.
First place.
Yeah, well, a little, yeah. I'm 135.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm aiming for, 110 to 120 on 2,100, 2,200 calories. Honestly, it doesn't take that much effort. If I had fewer calories again, it would be more of an intentional challenge, I guess.
If I make oatmeal, I'll throw in some TVP with it, to kind of boost the protein and that. Or I could use protein powder too, but I think TVP gives a little texture. So
totally. That's actually a pretty classic. I don't like the word hack because it assumes that it's like an easy way out or it's like, but I'll use the term anyway. It's a good protein hack that I think people should do more because TVP takes on the flavor of whatever you're eating it with, kind of like tofu.
Yeah.
You could have a sweet oatmeal bowl with it if you wanted to.
I've been away at a conference out of town, and I need to get back into the kitchen again and go to the grocery store again. But I like to make these like seitan buns. I'll knead it up and then I'll put it into little buns, throw it into the oven, and then I'll just slice those. They're a little on the chewy side because it's gluten, but I'll slice those and put something on it like hummus and sauerkraut, or might even, so those are a really great protein source, and it's not hard to make.
I like the sound of sauerkraut. I eat that literally every day. I'm half German, so that's my excuse.
Okay.
Love it. Okay, so tell me about some of the meets that you've done. I want to get into your training as well. But for those who don't know, I think most of our listeners are somewhere on the spectrum of either strength trainees already or strength training curious.
Okay.
Basically, what a powerlifting competition is bench press, deadlift, and squat. And you do one rep with as much weight as you can.
Right.
And you have 3 tries per lift. So tell me what that looks like in terms of numbers you're shooting for, what other people in your age group are lifting. What does that look like in a meet?
I went to my first meet in July.
Okay.
First and only so far. And Katya got me very well prepared for that. And I did not do a squat because my depth is not low enough. So I did what's called a push-pull.
So deadlift and bench.
Yeah, rather than competing in all 3, because I wouldn't have been able to qualify, and that would have thrown out the other numbers.
Right.
So, and I'm working on that, and I'm going to be, I've already registered for another meet, which is in January, and this one is a state championship one, so my numbers will go into those. Mm-hmm. And I am hoping that by then I will be able to qualify for squat. I have been working on the depth of my squat. And you know what? If I compare where I started when I was in my living room here and where I am now, I'm horizontal at this point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I am hopeful that by January, my butt will be lower.
You know, in the scheme of things, a couple months is not that long. I mean, people work for years and years on these 3 lifts. So that's pretty impressive in just a couple months making that much progress.
A couple of months ago, I was feeling frustrated, and Katya sent me the pictures of snaps of the videos of where I was here progress, and where I am here. And it's like, oh, okay, you know. So, but my bench, what I did at the meet was about 77.5 pounds. I mean, it was in kilos.
Right, yes.
And my best bench at this point at the gym is 82.5.
Nice.
And my deadlift at the meet was 159.87 pounds because it was in kilos, so 160 pounds. And my latest best on deadlift is 165 pounds.
Ooh, look at that.
And my goal in July would be to be able to deadlift my weight, and I surpassed that. So I was very pleased to have gotten that far that fast.
Absolutely. This is all happening very quickly. I'm impressed.
I have already beat the state record in this federation, USAPL. I've already, because the state number was 77 pounds and I was at 77.5, but it wasn't a championship number, so it doesn't show it as having beaten that. So I should be able to beat the state record for my weight class and age. Mm-hmm. The number for bench press is 176 pounds, and if I can do 165, I have a hunch that I should be able to beat that come January. So
based on how things are going at this point, absolutely.
Yeah, so I am, those are my goals. My goals are to beat those state numbers and to be able to qualify in squat.
Love that. Love that. And you know what? Excellent timing, because I wanted to talk about your training, and Katya is in the lobby here, so I'm going to let her in.
Oh, good.
And then we can talk about what Pat's training looks like. Hello, Katya. Welcome.
Glad you made it.
Hey.
We are rolling, and we're just getting into the point where we're talking about Pat's training, which is where you come in. So you've been Pat's coach for the last little while, getting her ready for meets, kicking ass. Basically, Pat was just telling me about numbers and her goals in training for bench, deadlift, and squat. But what I'm interested in is, what does her week of training look like at this point? Like, what are you programming for Pat as your client to do in the gym?
Well, last week was different because she was traveling, so we had to program a hotel day. So Pat travels sometimes, like she traveled to the Tamron Hall show. She threw a really interesting challenge for me to program training for her 2 weeks out of her first meet. And I was like, you're going to be hiking? You want to take a vacation? We can't do this. This is the most important week of training. So we had to program something right before the taper, right before she had to test her bench and her dead before she went into the meet. And she found the gym next to some national parks, and she trained by herself with no spotter. So that was really difficult. So right now, let me open up her program. I was not prepared for that, such a specific question. I can tell you that she deadlifts twice a week now. She works out 4 days a week. She deadlifts twice, and she benches 3 times.
Yeah, you pretty have me bench lifting almost every time, all but one time.
Right. She benches almost every time. For an older, smaller female, I think that is pretty typical. The majority of my senior athletes, and I'm not a senior athlete, but I also bench as much. It is easier to split the volume into smaller chunks and to recover from that, in my opinion, if you bench 3 days a week, 4 days a week, rather than compared to a big dude, super big dude, they could bench once or twice and they'd be exhausted. They'd be recovering from that for many days, and then bench again. They recovered from that for many days.
I see that a lot in like non-powerlifting training, right? There's this idea now that training might actually look different as we get older, and it's less the bodybuilding style where it's like today's chest day, tomorrow's back day, next time it's legs, right? And so you're only training each thing once a week, but you are trashing that muscle group every time. And so it's not necessarily effective, but also I think, like you just said, with bench, for example, if Pat's doing 3 days a week of bench, it's not as intense every single time. Like you're not trashing completely your pecs and your triceps. It's still hard work.
We're not doing burnout sets. We're not doing, bench and then some like garbage volume on triceps and biceps and dumbbell presses and toe presses and all that. Like we're not doing that. We're mainly working within, I would say, rep ranges of 3, 4, 6, probably not over 6, and RPE until closer to the meet, probably not over 8.5. I don't think it's necessary to go way over that. It's definitely not worth going to failure. We did test before Tamron Hall TV show, which I didn't think it was necessary, but they were like, oh, let's do like a super heavy bench and deadlift. And then they were like, well, never mind. Our floor is a screen and we cannot have you drop weights.
I heard about that. So Pat, you ended up benching though, right? On TV?
Yeah, I did bench 75 pounds. I probably could have PR'd at that thing because the adrenaline rush that I had on that stage was so high. I probably could have bench lifted a whole lot more, but it's fine.
So the deadlift, was that because their floor wouldn't have absorbed the impact properly?
Yeah, their floor is a monitor.
Oh.
And I said to them, well, shoot, it's only 160 pounds. People weigh more than that. And they said, no, but you dropped them on the floor. Yeah, well, I could have said it, but yeah, I get it.
They didn't trust you.
Dang.
That's okay.
Dang. Oh, well, now we know.
But they showed the video of me from the meet deadlifting.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
that makes sense.
That was available on YouTube. So
right.
And I'm going to say about recovery is that, the way that Katya is programming, yes, I feel late afternoon and evening, I feel a bit wasted after deadlift day or squat day.
Sure.
But the next day I'm okay. I might feel some soreness depending on what I've done, but that night of is when I'll feel, oh my God.
So Katya, Pat and I were talking about her squat goals and range of motion, being able to, get a qualifiable squat. It sounds like it's pretty close, if not already there. But what kind of stuff are you as a coach working on with Pat in order to get this depth acceptable for a powerlifting meet?
Honestly, Pat is probably one of the most patient clients I've ever had. And she's also progressed the fastest that I've ever had with outside of, taking into account age, which is insane. Like Patricia thinks she's not progressing fast enough. So, yesterday she couldn't squat halfway to depth and tomorrow she couldn't squat all the way to depth. Duh. This is not enough. And I'm like,
you're exaggerating.
No, for real. Every once in a while when she's like, yeah, I failed. This is too bad. I keep sending her the video that I've saved from one of the first workouts when she was squatting with band support at the house, halfway to depth, basically good morninging it up. Mm-hmm. She couldn't do much more because of ankle mobility, and she probably had the strength, but she didn't have the technique and the practice to do it. I'm not sure what it was. She could have probably been squatting sooner than we've been working together if she just stumbled on the right YouTube video or on the right advice from whoever. But what we're doing essentially is we're getting the ankle range of motion. We are adding strength to the new ranges of motion that are being developed. So when you develop a new range of motion, that range is weak. That range is just passive. So we're building the strength in those new ranges of motion. And sometimes it feels like a fail because you just get down and you can't get up. But the thing is, you could get down with your heels on the floor. That is a huge success. Mm-hmm. I feel, Pat, in the way I was trying to train the chest bench with flared elbows. I was developing new ranges of motion. That wasn't a huge success for me. I have some athletes who are also developing like squat ranges, but they're not as like far from the hole as Pat was. So the way she's developing the ranges and building strength in them is just crazy. And yeah, all we're doing is ankle mobility, building the strength with some PT that is really, really annoying PT that does not involve the barbell. It just involves body weight on the wall usually or something like that.
PT is synonymous with annoying, but it's also important. So I understand.
Yeah, really important. And then barbell and spotters, lots of spotters, a little bit of barbell, a little bit more, and probably enough to, I don't want to put any numbers in it, but I would say do like 65 pounds at the meet. Maybe 85 pounds. I don't know.
We shall see. You know, I started about a year ago squatting with a safety bar just because I have biceps tendonitis and my shoulder does not like being in that position, you know, like a deep bench press or holding the bar in a back squat. It totally changed my depth and how the squat feels. I don't think you're allowed to use safety bars in powerlifting meets, are you?
As an accessory in your training, you can use whatever you want. Safety bar is great. I love safety bar.
Yeah. But you can't do it in a meet, though. It changes it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's also like you get used to getting the calluses on your hands and no gloves because, well, you can't use gloves in a meet. So therefore.
Exactly.
So I have a ring that I don't wear anymore because it just made it worse. So, yeah.
Yeah, my ring is silicone. My wedding band is a $20 silicone ring.
More of a
yeah, I thought it might be. So I can actually wear that one while lifting, but not anything metal. Hey, Katya, are you working on nutrition also with Pat?
Yeah, we are. We were working on more of the nutrition when she was losing weight and when she lost enough weight that she was just happy with how she felt. We kind of stopped working on losing weight because we were like smack in the middle of the weight category for powerlifting. We didn't need to do anything. She didn't want to water cut down into the next weight category, which I kind of was like biting my lip, like, oh, if we did, we would have broken the California state record. But that was the first meet. The first meet is just to do it. The first meet is not to break anything. Usually that's like the most comfortable space for an athlete. And now Pat is like, I looked this lady up. I matched the California state record. I could have beaten it. Maybe I could beat it. Now we're doing all three. What is the total? So we are talking about all of those things now for the January meet. So closer to January, in January, maybe we'll talk about like gut cut and water cut. I don't know. Maybe we'll cut another pound or two of fat. It all depends on what Pat wants for her body. And that's it.
Pat, how does it feel to be in a weight class sport? And there's a lot of them. Boxing, powerlifting, wrestling. I mean, there's a ton of professional sports that are based on weight classes.
Well, it's certainly to my advantage to be competing with people my weight than people who are 50 pounds more than I am. I can't lift those weights, at least not at this point. I mean, I think that women who have been powerlifting for 20, 30 years, if I had started this, when I was in my 30s or 40s, it could be different. But certainly this gives me an opportunity to do well, both in terms of age and weight class. So I don't mind having the advantage. So
I have a friend who's actually been on the podcast. She's a strongman competitor, but she's a tiny human. She weighs 105 pounds and actually very rarely has people in her weight class to compete against because she's just like 5 feet tall, very small human. But it makes sense. I mean, why would she be competing with someone literally twice her weight and twice the muscle mass? So it's reasonable. I think there's a lot of, there's pros and cons related to weight, especially as females. We want to be careful that we're doing it in a way that's healthy and, not diet culture-y. But I think in competitive sports, it's a little different than the coach who is getting their clients ready for a bodybuilding competition, which Katya, I know you've done in the past, like figure competing, kind of like getting stage ready, essentially, right? What is the cultural, let's call it, difference, Katya, between a bodybuilding type prep and a powerlifting meet type prep?
Personally or coaching an athlete?
Let's do personally.
Oh gosh, personally, I mean, the amount of body dysmorphia that bodybuilding has given me is just insurmountable. It's incomparable to any body dysmorphia that society and other people's comments have given me. Yeah, internalized body dysmorphia and fear of your friends and your family and people who are close to you just losing value in you as a human being if you have a few more shreds of fat. So that's what I have to say about bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of it, it's not a weight class sport for women. For men, it is. Women do not have weight limits in bodybuilding in several categories. You just look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I am fat. And that's pretty much all you think, no matter how you look.
Brutal. Brutal.
Yeah, in powerlifting, I would never evaluate my reflection versus my value or performance. I would step on scale and I'd be like, I know I lose a pound of weight overnight. So if I weigh 166 pounds tonight, I will weigh in smack in at the top end of my weight category of 165 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be most competitive that I can be, and I will crush it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably the healthier outlook on what I can do and how much fun I can have, rather than like doubting my, I don't know, value as a human being or my humanity or any of those like soft qualities that eventually crosses your brain in peak week. In the majority of the bodybuilder competitors that I've talked to and in myself.
That's fair. I mean, powerlifting is a performance-based sport. Your performance is gauged, how much are you lifting? Whereas in bodybuilding, the entirety of your sport, and maybe I should be using quotes, I don't know. People are probably going to yell at me for that. It's just based on a judge panel who give their thoughts on your aesthetics. And usually folks who are stepping on stage are so lean that they're actually very depleted and not very strong, at least at that point in the game, right? So they're not crushing deadlifts and squats at that point. They just feel like shite because they're eating like 1,000 calories a day at that point.
Yeah. And my observation at a meet is that people aren't worried about their body shape or any of that. They're worried. It's about how much they can lift.
Absolutely.
And there are all body shapes and sizes.
That's amazing.
And figures. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pat, I was going to ask you about that atmosphere. Like, what was your first meet like? How did it feel? What were you thinking?
What was really very cool is that this gym that I told you about that I joined, when I walked in there, they said that I said I was interested in powerlifting, and they said, we've got a powerlifting group. We'll put you in the chat, and then they all signed up for this meet that was in July. And so I had a group of people to go with my very first time.
Amazing.
They even had a coach go along with them to be in the warm-up room to help us choose the weights, to walk out with us. He talked to the people at the desk to tell them what my next weight would be. I didn't have to think.
Amazing.
And so I was really, and it made it a really fun experience to be part of a group going to this. I have a niece and her husband live in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and they came to the meet, as well as about a half dozen of the sisters, including this sister who recently died, who had been a marathoner, Sister Marian Irvine. She's 95 and she just died, but she wanted to go to that competition, and everybody else left except her and her driver. She stayed until I got my medal.
Amazing.
So I felt extremely supported. And I don't anticipate that I'll have the same kind of a group with me next time when I go in January. But I'm okay with that because it's at the same place, same venue, and the same group is putting it on. And so I have some comfort with the place and all of that. And with having done it, it'll be a more comfortable experience in January. And I think that the gym is going to send somebody with me to be a support. So
excellent. Do they call them handlers?
Could be.
A lot of my powerlifting friends and Olympic lifting competitors, I've got some friends who are in like world level masters Olympic lifters. They always have a handler who's doing like the weight selection and the prep and the, all that kind of stuff. I just think it's kind of an amusing term.
It was really kind of a neat experience. I experienced some nervousness, I think, that is unusual for me. I'm used to doing things in front of people and I don't get all that nervous, but for that I felt a little anxious. Mm-hmm. And also on the first lift, which was the bench, I messed up on the commands.
Oh.
So I lost the first lift. I probably could have gotten a heavier weight on the third lift, but because I lost the first one because I didn't follow the directions, even though I knew how, I'd practiced them, but still, it was the first time.
It's the adrenaline.
It's all part of the learning experience. So
tell me about the cues that basically like you're looking for or complying with in order to qualify your lift.
I think like for the bench, it's start and then press. And they tell you down, I think 10 too. But for the deadlift, it's just start.
Right.
And I haven't done the squat in competition yet. So I'll have to learn that piece. Right now, we're just trying to get my butt down.
But it sounds like it's going pretty well, Pat. I'm very impressed. Cool. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Katya, is there anything that you want to add to our discussion? Anything you want to leave our viewers and listeners with?
I just want to say that Pat is a great example of you can start doing whatever the sport you feel like at whatever the age. There's no limit. There's no age limit. There's no weight limit. Also, how you look doesn't make you valuable for whatever the sport. Like, hell, you could enter bodybuilding competition, if you're 50 pounds overweight. It doesn't matter. You could lean into it slowly, easily. You could start doing powerlifting. If you are way over the hole and you can't squat yet, you will get there eventually. If you have, genetics is a part in it, sure. But if you have enough dedication, I think you can do anything. Like, I am a horrible singer. I promised myself that for my 30th birthday, I would sing in front of an audience, like in front of all of my friends. So I gathered some of my friends to do like a, mock band. And we sang a full concert of songs. Like, I think we picked like 10 songs and we're pretty good. So
that's amazing.
Some people are like, you're crazy. You can't sing. Like, my mom told me I can't sing. I don't have a voice. Maybe some Pat's friends who saw her a year ago would tell her like she couldn't squat. So it's not that. It's about dedication and it's about how consistent you are with what you're doing. So talent is not a thing. It's definitely not about that. You can do anything. Genetics definitely adds to how well you could do something. So if you already have an edge in terms of genetics, you could be excellent and you could be like world class. But if you don't have that, you could still do something decently well and better than the people who had the talent originally, but didn't have the dedication to do enough with it.
I love your line, talent is not a thing. I think that is so huge. I think it's overrated. Yes, of course, there are genetic pieces, especially if we're looking at, a Michael Phelps type that actually has a longer reach or wingspan than he is tall. Like that's a genetic anomaly that helps him in his sport. We don't all have those things, but we all have the capacity and the capability to do hard things and to be consistent. And I think that's why, one of the many reasons why Pat and her journey here is so inspirational. So Pat, do you have anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, certainly. Thank you. I think it's pretty much the same thing, that we can do more than we think we can do. Mm-hmm. It's even when it comes to physically, we can do more than we think we can do. And I'm gratified when this last week when I was at this national gathering of nuns, and it was like we see you everywhere, but some of them came to me and were asking some advice and telling me that they were trying to do that. And some of them who were younger than I am, I said, do it now. Mm-hmm. Don't wait till you're my age. If any of this is an encouragement to anyone else, my age, younger, older, to try to do more, to get some steps in, to use some resistance bands or some light weights or something or other, it's all to the good. So if people aren't exercising now, just do something.
Do something. Well, Pat and Katya, the Absolute Power team, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Cannot wait to get this out into the world. We're going to have it in several formats this time, including visual, which we don't often do for our podcast. But I look forward to putting that out. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you and for inviting us. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina.
Huge thank you to Pat and Katya for speaking with me. To connect with them, head to our show notes at nobullshitvegan.com/211. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the No Bullshit Vegan podcast at nobullshitvegan.com.